Hey guys, and welcome back to the channel. This video will be your complete guide to wheels for the 2015 Plus WRX and STI platform. There's so many videos out there generally about wheels and specific wheels on the WRX and STI, and I think it's one of the most common questions I get on this channel. So in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you need to know from start to finish about wheels on this car, most common wheels, what's reliable, what you should buy, what's the price range, and just the how-to to aftermarket wheels on the WRX and STI platform, because there is a lot to know. And if you think you know everything, definitely stick through the video, because there might be some things that you didn't actually know and you might learn some stuff in this video. So whether you're an expert about wheels and you're looking to know a little bit more about this platform specifically, or you want wheels and you don't know what the first step is and you don't really know that there are some things you do need to know when you're getting into this car and you want to change the wheels out. I'm going to start with the very basics. Feel free to skip through the video if you think that you've already mastered a section. But let's start with the basics. So you want to buy new wheels for your 2015 Plus Subaru WRX or STI. So what's the first thing that you need to know? Well, let's talk about wheels themselves. There's a couple things you need to understand about wheels. There's the diameter of the wheel, which is the diameter of the circle of the wheel. And on the stock WRXs, that's typically a 17 or 18-inch wheel, depending on what your trim level is. And your typical aftermarket wheel for this platform is either going to be an 18 or 19-inch wheel. The 18-inch wheel is the most common wheel that people put on the WRX and the 2015 Plus WRX and STI platform. So that's diameter. The next thing is the width. The width is just the width of the wheel. It's pretty straightforward. Those are the two easy metrics. The stock width of the wheels are pretty narrow. They're about 8 to 8.5 inches, depending on your year and trim level, and the typical aftermarket wheel that's going onto these is between a 9 and 10. The most common would be a 9.5 inch width of the wheel. Now, the tricky and harder to understand metric around wheels is the offset, and this is either a positive or negative number, typically measured in millimeters. So what is the offset? If you cut your wheel in half, and I'll have a little diagram, if you cut your wheel in half, the offset is the distance between the very center of the wheel and the mounting face of the wheel onto the hub. So what does that really mean? If you have a positive offset, your wheels are going to be further into your wheel well. They won't poke out as much. And if you have a negative impact, or you're moving towards a zero or a negative impact, the mounting face is coming deeper into the wheel if the outside of the wheel is the outside of the car, and the wheels are going to poke out more in the car. What does that really mean? Stock wheels on the 2015 Plus Subaru WRX and STI are a plus 55 millimeter offset, and your typical offset for aftermarket wheels on these cars are anything from a plus 45 to like a plus 15 millimeter offset. So people are typically getting wheels that are a little more aggressive, they poke out a little bit more, like mine do, and they add more of an aggressive look on this car. So that's offset. Those are the three metrics when you're looking at wheels for things you need to understand. Before we talk about the different types of wheels, what I recommend for this platform and all that stuff, there are two other things that you need to know that are basics on the 15 Plus WRX platform. The first and foremost is that you need a hub-centric ring. This is a little ring that you need to install aftermarket wheels on the Subaru WRX platform. And just to make it easy, you guys need to order a 73.1 millimeter to 56.1 millimeter hub-centric ring. That's your conversion. You'll also need to get lug nuts, most likely, because the lug nuts on the stock wheel are, one, incredibly unattractive, but they're also wide and short and typically won't fit a lot of aftermarket wheels. So you'll need M12 by 1.25, and that's going to be the size of your lug nut. You want to get typical hex lug nuts, and typically the longer the better. And if you don't know what size you need, always go on the longer size, so that you know they're designed for a deeper cavity lug nut housing space cut out in your wheel. Better play it safe. So let's talk about the different kinds of wheels and how they're manufactured, because yes, there are different kinds of wheels and they are defined by the process they are manufactured. I said that basically twice, but that's the reality. So the most common wheels for these WRXs, especially for a less expensive car like the WRX or STI, and the type of wheel that you actually have in front of you, that's in front of me right now, this is my broken wheel, but I thought I'd bring it out for show and tell, is a cast wheel. What does this really mean? It is a molten metal, typically aluminum, that is poured into a cast and compressed and basically shaped into the wheel. So it is a cast wheel. Now, this is the cheapest wheel. It's also, as wheels go, the lowest strength wheel, and typically you see these wheels crack if they get damaged, where if you have a forged wheel, which is another type of wheel that we'll talk about in a second, they would bend. So this is your typical entry-level wheel. This is where most people start. And before I even get too far into it, this is the wheel that I recommend you start with if you've never had aftermarket wheels, because having aftermarket wheels involves another level of care that most people aren't used to, because if you damage your wheel, you lose all of its value, and if you're buying wheels, you're probably buying a replacement. Your middle class wheel, which is your middle in cost and middle in strength, is your rotary forged or flow form forged wheel. This isn't a full forged wheel, it's actually a cast wheel, which is then forged, which is a combination of heat, tensile strength compression, or heat, tensile strength compression, and CNC milling. So it's still a cast wheel, but has some of the properties that you're getting from a full forged wheel that are then implied in the manufacturing process. What does that really mean? You get a little bit better strength, but ultimately you pay a greater amount for the wheels, and typically you can see slightly different finishes. They can hold up longer sometimes, but it depends on the powder coating of the cast wheels. That's a whole nother topic, but that's your middle ground. And then for the needle in the haystack, the least commonly used but highest class wheel and most expensive are your forged wheels. Now these come in two flavors. They're either model block, which means they're either stamped with lots of heat, or they're CNC milled from a block of whatever the material for the wheel is going to be, or they're multi-piece, which is multiple pieces of what I just explained. The model block is very expensive, and the multi-piece is just about as expensive as they get for wheels. Forged wheels are going to be the highest strength, and with that, they are going to be the most expensive wheels. Those are going to be the wheels that can hold up. They're going to be your track wheels. They're going to be the wheels that if you're really running the car, or you want to look really great, or you want that craftsmanship, that's typically the wheels you're going with. But it's like the difference of, for a cast wheel, you could pay $200 or $300 a wheel, right? A set of 4 wheels could be $800 to $1,000, and a forged wheel might cost you $1,000 just for the forged wheel, and that's kind of middle ground for forged wheels. So now you know a little bit more about the different kinds of wheels. What are the most common on WRXs and STIs? And that is by far cast wheels, because of the cost. Often you see that people don't want to put $4,000 or $5,000 worth of wheels on their used $20,000 to $40,000 car. With that said, if you're a first-time wheel buyer, you should get a cast wheel to learn more about what it's like to own aftermarket wheels, because it's not just cut and dry, put it on the car, and then take it off when you're ready to take it off. It can be, but you're not going to get the value of your wheels if you don't care for them, like any other modification on your car or your car itself. Don't worry, I'm going to tell you guys what kind of sizes you need to buy for your car too. That's going to be the last thing I talk about likely. The next thing is the most common wheels. So let's say that you have a 15 plus WRX or STI, you want aftermarket wheels, you don't know where to go, and you don't know what's reliable. So there are some very common wheels, and these are great places to start. Of course, the gold standard is Avid One wheels. That's what's sitting in front of you. This is arguably the cheapest and most reliable for the price cast wheel. I've broken a handful of those, but that's because I live in Boston, and actually the first time, the 2 that I broke, I hit a big piece of concrete on the highway. Definitely gonna break the wheels, gonna bend forged wheels. Broke this wheel, not entirely sure, probably hit a pothole, but the turnaround is I can replace it for $200 or $300 with the tire, and I'm not that bummed, where if I had forged wheels, you see what's gonna happen. So Avid One wheels are your bread and butter for cast wheels. And then when you take a step up, you get a mix of cast and flow form or rotary forged, whatever you want to say, and some forged. Actually, I don't know if NK has forged, but NK would be your other natural competitor. NK has been working with Subarus literally forever, basically probably since the inception of, aftermarket. Well, that's not right, but they've been working together for a long time. So NKs are a great middle ground if you're looking to kind of get something that's really nice, reliable, and a little bit better than the Avid ones. You also have Cosmos Racing. Those are very popular. I'm basically going through the most popular brands. I'm not going to list all of them. So Cosmos Racing is also a great option. And then when you want to start getting into more expensive wheels and you want to start spending more money and getting into that community, because more expensive forged wheels is a community in and of itself, you get Works, and specifically Work Emotions. I think the Work Emotion DR9 is a very common wheel for the WRX and STI platform. That's just what's rattling off my head, but Work, and specifically the Work Emotions, are a very, very popular and common wheel on the 15 Plus and WRX platform. I'm not saying those are the wheels, those are the only options for wheels. Those are just the 4 brands that I think are the most common. Those are the ones that I see when I go to events. Those are the most common. And I've reached out to a few wheel manufacturers and basically vendors to understand where their volume is, and that's kind of where their volume sits. So those are the wheels that are selling the most for this platform. Okay, so you've watched the video to this point and you're like, okay, I'm feeling comfortable, I'm ready to buy an aftermarket wheel. What size do I want to go with? Well, there's a lot of options, but I'm going to make a recommendation that's pretty much true and hard fast, and it's just a kind of a gold standard within this platform, and it's going to be an 18 by 9.5 with a plus 38 millimeter offset. Now, not every wheel manufacturer is going to give you that plus 38 millimeter offset, but the 18 by 9.5 is a very common size. In fact, it is the most common size for this platform by far. I would hazard to guess that it makes up more than 90% of the wheels sold for this platform and the wheels that are used in this platform. And then I would say that the offset is anywhere from between plus 40 to plus 20. That's a great, comfortable offset. Of course, when you get to that plus 20, even plus 30 and lower, you're running an aggressive wheel and it's going to have some poke. I think it looks great. It's not for everyone, but just understand with a plus 38 millimeter offset, I'm already poking on my car. I think it looks great. I wish I went with more offset, but it's something to consider. I'm not saying you can't go out and put 17s on your car. Go out and put 17s if you want. It's just a less common wheel size, and 17s do look a little bit silly when you've got bigger concavity wheels or something where it's more of a focus point, it's more of a focal point. You want something that's a little bit larger. You can go with 19s. That is also semi-common, but the cost of your tires at the ratios that we need and the percentages that you're trying to meet at a 19-inch wheel, your tires get substantially more expensive because, again, the 18 by 9.5 is a very common size. That's what most people do, so that's where most of the tires are produced. So it's probably a safe bet to go with a 18 by 9.5. And again, why am I saying 9.5? Well, that's just the most common size. You can go with a skinnier tire, but the 9.5 makes me feel more planted. It feels like I can put power to the ground. Of course, a wider wheel and a wider tire is going to translate to better power delivery when you're flooring your car. It does make the ride quality a little bit better, in my opinion, a little bit more sporty. So maybe in the wrong direction, it does make it a little more stiff, but it feels stiff and it feels better and you feel more connected. So if you're looking for that, the 9.5 is great. The only downside to the 9.5 is your turning radius gets a little tight when you're at full bore. So just keep in mind that you're not rubbing, depending on your tire size. If you run a slightly different tire, if you watch this video and copy the wheel size that I have, and you watch the next video, which is the tire guide, and you copy the tire size that I have, you will not rub, but I'm very close to rubbing. So FYI, take that as a danger point. Something that is important to add is that if you are running the Brembo brakes on the STI, you need to make sure that you have a wheel that has sufficient clearance for your brakes. If you're looking at wheels and you have the larger brakes, there are tons of communities on Facebook and on Reddit and other Subaru forums that will tell you whether or not it works. And if you have a set of wheels that you're questioning and you're not sure whether they fit, again, most wheels that are very common will fit, but you should always be sure before you ask. And typically the sites that sell wheels are getting better and better about policing clearance when you put in whether you have an XTI or a WRX. So they police that clearance because they know and they have a guide. But just know that if you're getting a wheel that isn't commonly run, definitely go to those sites or post in the comment section below to see if anyone's running that wheel. And someone will answer you either in the comment section or on one of those sites to see whether or not they've done it before. I promise you don't have to guess. People have done basically everything. You're not going to reinvent the wheel here. Don't be afraid to ask. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any other questions about wheels and tires, go watch the tire video that'll come out directly after this video. If you've got more questions about wheels, let me know in the comment section below, and I will do my best to answer those questions for the entirety of the life of the video, like I do a lot of my other videos. I try to get to all of your comments, and yeah. So hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Hopefully I answered your questions, and hopefully you're feeling more empowered to go out and buy some new aftermarket wheels for your car. Thanks. Bye.